Welcome to A Human Element, a podcast series putting our people at the centre of everything we do. Throughout this series, we'll meet fascinating individuals involved in transformation journeys and driving high-performing teams. We'll explore how they motivate and engage both themselves and those around them, focusing on well-being and resilience. We live in a world of constant change with rapidly evolving technology, and we're always striving to do more with less. A Human Element will slow things down, reduce the noise, and talk openly about the challenges we're all facing. A community that places our people at the centre of everything we do. Today I'm in conversation with Jack Su, most recently Group COO of Security, IT Risk and Resilience at QBE, but now looking to embark on the next chapter of his career. So today's episode of A Human Element features a guest that I've been looking to get in a room with for a while. Someone who, we've known each other for quite some time. The stars have aligned, the timing's kind of worked out quite nicely. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Jack Su, fresh from a European trip. How are you? How are you feeling? Nice and refreshed?
Yeah, good, Adam. I think if I complained about going to Spain and Portugal for 3 weeks, I'll lose credibility with your listeners straight off the bat.
Yeah.
So all I can say is absolutely refreshed and good to be here. Mm-hmm. I was saying to you earlier, just excited to be able to articulate some of the stuff that's been in my head for many, many years and hopefully some people get value out of it.
Yeah. And obviously just finished like a 6-year stint at QBE. I suppose it sounds like you had quite a busy trip away, but I imagine some time to kind of reflect as well and sort of, like I say, decompress a little bit as well.
Yeah, probably more decompressing than anything else, to be honest. 6 years, where it's 9 a.m. somewhere in the world. There's a chance you get a break, a proper break. The last thing I wanted to do was think about work stuff for too long. Yeah. And to be honest, I actually spent 3 weeks listening to World War II podcasts.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And I found one that has 500 episodes, if anyone was interested.
Wow. 500?
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
I don't remember anything I listened to, but it was entertaining anyway.
Yeah. Interesting period of history. And obviously, we, like I say, we've known each other for a long time. Our conversations often can kind of veer all over the place, but a lot of what it tends to sort of orbit around is kind of people, culture. I guess your field of expertise has always kind of been that operational side of things, maximizing efficiencies, putting together operating models, like creating structures and sort of setting the platform for high performing teams to thrive. So just a really interesting kind of angle to look at, in line with what we often what we often discuss in this podcast around kind of well-being and resilience and driving high performing teams. So I guess I just wanted to kick off with, where does your passion for this space come from? Because I'm always an advocate of, if you're not passionate about something, there's no point doing it. So, where does your passion come from?
Yeah, good question. Obviously, for those who don't know me, everyone, my background is it started in transformation. Did many years in management consulting, and then more recently running operations for corporate functions. So again, there's a transformation bent to it, and I think the passion just comes in dealing with lots of successful and unsuccessful transformations. And actually taking a step back and going, okay, what didn't work and what actually worked? Yeah. And the common theme here is the people side, right? If you look at all the transformation work itself, yes, you can put a lot of effort into the process and the tech and the strategy, and you need to, because there's an outcome you're trying to achieve. The people underpins everything you need to get to the outcome. So, for example, the people needs to execute the strategy. The people needs to leverage follow the processes. Yeah. And the people need to use the tech. So when we think about transformation itself, we put so much effort into the first 3 elements, but we deal with the people part like it's a separate stream. It's a bunch of activities at the end of it. And then we get to a meeting with the business owner, and the business owner tells us everything is wrong and, all that noise, right? And rightly so, because we just don't think about the people part enough and often enough. But the problem is the people part is the most complex elements of how you transform. So a lot of times we don't deal with it directly, or we hire a specialist to come in and then we keep the specialist on the side when the work has to be integrated into all the different work streams that we're doing. So to answer your question about my passion, the people side is the hardest part, the most interesting part, but it's the part I think the most about. And this is why I'm trying to bring attention to this.
No, it's brilliant.
Audience.
And do you, I guess it's a bit of a side question, like, do you think that's ultimately why a lot of transformations famously fail? Because people don't put people at the center of it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I've been fortunate or unfortunate being that person that's come in and taken over the leadership of a transformation after 2 other people or 3 other people have struggled, right? And I kind of pride myself on being able to turn around transformations and turn around functions. And every single time it's to do with you understand what you're trying to achieve from a customer perspective. You understand what you're trying to achieve from a systems perspective. You're trying to replace your legacy system. You're trying to drive service excellence, or you're trying to sell more insurances. But then people have not interpreted that from a stakeholder perspective. Like, what does that mean for the stakeholder? What does the stakeholders need to know or do or need to be supported on to be able to get there?
Yeah.
So absolutely. I think every time I'm involved with a turnaround initiative, it's always to do with the lack of people focus previously that has taken it down the wrong path.
Yeah. And obviously, you've worked across a number of different sort of business units, providing that kind of structure and, trying to sort of drive towards, operational excellence and transformation. You're pretty agnostic, I guess. We've obviously known each other for a long time, worked together a long time. I think we first knew each other when you were at Aon, and then you sort of moved to QBE, and you were sort of very at the forefront of that HR program of work, which is obviously very people-centric. And then obviously your work was really recognised within that space to make that transition into the world of cyber. And you'd never worked on anything cyber related, as far as I could tell, as far as I knew, but you kind of came in and applied the same principles that you did within the HR space, I guess. How do you typically kind of achieve that buy-in from people? How do you become recognized as someone who can steady the ship?
Good question. One little story before we jump into there is when I started in security, I had some of my system details on a sticky note stuck on my laptop, and my boss saw that and wasn't very happy. and that was a reminder that I definitely haven't worked in security before.
Yeah.
No, it's a good one. Look, at the end of the day, probably no point in me preaching and repeating, the 101 of change management to your audience, because you do plenty of work in that space. But it's about thinking bigger than that. And it doesn't matter if it's in the context of HR or security or front office or finance, whatever it is, right? The people side of things needs to be part of the thinking from one, you're formulating the problem. What is the problem I'm solving for from a people perspective, from a customer perspective? Then you're going to go down and go, okay, I'm going to do some planning and say, okay, how do I break down the problem and what are the different things I'm going to do to solve those problems? Again, have you applied a people lens to it? And then when you execute, then you figure out, okay, in the people, in each stream, what is the people elements that I need to develop and deliverables? And is it change management? Is it actually upskilling and whatnot? Or is it actually restructuring the organization? So for me, you got to think about the people side from the start of the program all the way through to the end. For it to actually show up and actually be a people focused program, right? And if you don't do that, then you run a big risk of doing everything else well, and then the people doesn't know how to adapt to change and how to actually run it like their own.
Yeah.
How you do that, it really varies on, what the program is. It varies on what the environment is. And again, I think coming from QB, where it was very complicated stakeholder environment, as everyone will argue, it is everywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you know that being the federation, being global versus division, and also being located in 4 or 5 continents across the world, 4, I think. The stakeholder environment itself lends us to slowing down and really thinking through, if I need to, restructure teams to be able to take on a new application, I have to have 4 different conversations in 4 different parts. And have I built that into my plan? Have I built that into my objectives? Have I built that into my measures? And that sort of thinking needs courage, to be honest, because you're facing into, the CEO, CFO, whoever you're facing into, and you're saying, hey, you want to get this done by Q4, great. But do you want to get done well, or do you want to get it done not well?
Yeah.
And you have to be brave and be able to go, oh, well, the people part is difficult and challenging. So let's, either I'm going to come back to you and tell you things need to change and shift and delayed and whatnot throughout the program and keep you updated, or let's be realistic here and, recognize what the stakeholder environment is. So
you can tell with different cultural nuances as well, right?
Absolutely, right. You got to think about who is involved, not just the program, but who needs to own this and run this. And, at the end of the transformation, the program team is gone, but the person running the business needs to feel like this is their change and them being able to evolve it, because whatever the program delivers is never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So long story short, you can tell the way I'm answering the question is really around how you think about creating focus on people changes throughout the work you do.
Yeah.
A little bit less about the techniques of change, because I'm sure your listeners probably can do that better than I.
Yeah, and I think you kind of really planted that seed, particularly when you went into that kind of HR program of work. The idea of the relationship between CX and EX. It's something that when you break it down, it's quite obvious. But at the time, it was a bit of a light bulb for me, because I was kind of thinking, well, what is the relationship? And then you kind of broke it down as, well, if our employees are happy and their experience is good and their tires are pumped and, they want to work for QBE, then, we're going to give a great customer service. And there's a real intrinsic relationship between the two. Yeah.
And look, I think to be honest, when I was in HR, it was less about, for me, HR is just another specialized function, right?
Yeah.
And before HR, when I was at Aon, I was working on the front office, so customer stuff, right? But through my different experiences, what I learned was, what you're ultimately trying to do is you're trying to create an enterprise operating model with a shared vision, shared purpose. But how you do that is differently with different functions. And if you think about it, you kind of got this machine that's there to serve a customer, and everyone needs to turn the right way. And then if one area decides to turn the other way because compliance, risk, it just grinds the whole machine to a halt, right? So, with that analogy in mind, for me, my experiences have always shown me customer experience, and I won't go into all the frameworks and details of that. You can apply that to employee experience, because employees are customers too, for different functions. But for a transformation program, for them, it's really important, yes, to apply CX, EX concepts. But for them, it's about empowering the employee to adapt to change and own the change, right? And empowering, everyone knows what that is. Everyone loves the word, and everyone will never say, oh, I'm not empowering employees. But then they make decisions that puts pressure on employees to adapt too quickly when they can't. They make decisions where they treat them like a robot at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So then you kind of got this broken chain of, if a transformation program, especially in the back office, their job is to empower the employees so they can serve the customer better, then you should be making the people side of your transformation at the highest priority of what you're doing.
Yeah. And I hope that continues, because there's a lot of conjecture, and I don't want this to be all about AI, because it feels like it's all anyone's talking about at the moment, really. But it is topical. It's there. It's not going away. So there's a school of thought that perhaps we need to be focusing even more on the human side of things, to elevate above just the robotics and the automation. So
Yeah, I think our conversation's going different places again. This is what we do.
Yeah,
despite the script, right? No, but AI is another super interesting topic in many ways, right? And I think for me, there's two types of AI, and AI is a solution rather than an outcome. You got how do you build AI into your vision? So you have a company that have their goalposts, their objectives with AI incorporated into everything, right? Versus how do I use AI as opposed to a spreadsheet to get something done quicker?
Yep.
So I think for me, the latter is kind of what everyone's tackling at the moment. Let's go buy an AI tool, let's use Copilot, let's see what happens. But the hardest part is actually that first bit where how do I build an enterprise strategy or op model that considers, I guess, drawing a line in the sand, what AI is going to do for the organization, and then you work backwards. And no different. You got to make sure your customers get the benefit out of AI, your employees get benefit out of AI, and then the transformation programs needs to build AI into their deliverables. So the same concept. I think for me, yes, the people factor is really critical to consider, but AI and people is all going to kind of blend into one at some point, and you got to tackle both in the same vein, I think.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think it's all test and learn at the moment. Like everyone's still trying to work out how best to use it. I think I'm seeing more and more practical uses of it at the moment. I think for a long time it was just like, how can we shoehorn this in? How can we fit it in? Because all the execs are talking about it. Everyone's going to barbecues and talking about how are you getting AI into your business. But it's definitely being used in more practical ways. For me, it's supplementary and it should replace the human side.
I think for me, an important point here is, I think we all think a lot about the impact of AI and what does that mean to jobs and whatnot. And we all know it's going to be a massive impact. There's no doubt. I kind of come at it from an outcome perspective, as I said earlier. If AI can make you smarter, better, to serve customers better, great. But you build that into it, and maybe you need less people, maybe you don't. But it doesn't take away from the fact that you do still need to think about the people as you transform. So AI for me is more of a strategy as opposed to, do I use people or AI, right?
Yeah. I mean, it'd be pretty scary if we were looking to just replace people with robots. I think, that there's obvious, it's obviously very topical at the moment of, companies reducing cost and cost out, is the real focus. It'd be interesting to see whether, after a period of time where they realize actually we need to bring some of those people back and bring some of that capability back, whether it will go full circle, I don't know.
Yeah. I think we can take the rest of the podcast about AI if we don't stop. But I guess my last story on this is I think AI is an innovation. Like you said, it's a test and learn solution that we don't know enough about. I think in my space, we often protect innovation from day to day because it needs a certain type of environment.
Definitely,
it can't be restricted in a sense. But we're in this juncture where every organization's got the fear of missing out, and now they're clobbering their innovation agenda into the day to day, and then essentially being confused in many ways.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see a bit of a slowdown. I think in kind of going, hey, we're playing with it in our current context, or trying to put AI tools into our people processes isn't getting much out of it. It's going to be a little bit of a reset and go, okay, AI needs to innovate, or we need to innovate with other companies. We got to stop being so secretive about it.
And
we'll see where it lands, right? But well, watch this space.
Yeah.
How do you know we're not AI? That's the question.
That is the ultimate question. The final thing I'll say on it is something that I wrote about the other day. It was, I think the more robotic we are as people, the more we are inclined to be replaced by robots. And I think we need to think of creative ways of humanizing our work to show, well, actually the human element is is irreplaceable.
And that's a great point, right? Because this is kind of exactly what I'm kind of preaching here around.
Yeah.
If you treat the people as a byproduct of, or the people behaviors as a byproduct of your process and tech and strategy that you're building, you're treating it like a robot.
Yeah.
You actually got to flip the other around and go, hey, what are we trying to achieve? Okay, we're trying to get into a new market. We're trying to serve the customers better in this way, or we're trying to get rid of this system. Okay, so then what's the human part of achieving that? What can they do to really maximize what we do there? And then you work with the process and the tech and the strategy to align them. And that way, the people behaviors is not predefined. It's almost you give them the autonomy and the empowerment and those things to be able to achieve the outcome as long as they're clear what the outcome is. So there's a big part of this is just treating the people side of things equally with the other components and make sure there's the good planning, the good investments, the good support as you would with any other work stream, and then crack on from there.
Yeah, brilliant. And I guess one of the other conversations that we've had a few times, you introduced me to the book, The Friction Project. And I think you'd picked up on it from a podcast, or I don't know. Had you read it, or you mentioned it to me, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I read it, and I was like, this is a real interesting perspective of, there's a lot of people that are good at creating friction, but there's a real skill in itself to reduce the friction, reduce the noise, get things moving, and friction isn't necessarily unhealthy if it drives towards the right outcomes. It's something we've talked about quite a bit. And I guess, do you think that's influenced your work in terms of creating high performing cultures, in terms of allowing that friction to happen as long as it's healthy friction?
Yeah, it's a good question about if I actually introduced to it, or I was introduced the concept of it, and then I just passed on the concept. I'm not much of a reader. I'm more of a podcaster. But ultimately, like the idea of friction, I do remember the conversation was really about organizations that reward adding more work to the system, but no one rewards removing work to the system. And if it's a great concept, because ultimately you think about it, it's you deliver a project, you change something. Congratulations, here's a big bonus. No one ever kind of goes, hey, you're doing less work. Congratulations. Right? And I think we're starting to get there, especially things like AI and whatnot. But at the end of the day, doing less is not necessarily bad. Doing less actually creates opportunities to do more somewhere else as well.
Yeah. Because we tend to glorify adding to problems rather than streamlining, stripping back, making things more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think as leaders here, when you think about what the team's objectives are, and your team's objectives may be actually to reduce friction and reduce workflow organization, process improvement and whatnot. But not everyone. You might be there to create products and build a new innovation hub. Your job is to add, right? But it doesn't stop you from, again, working backwards from the objective and going, is everything I'm doing adding value to the customer, like internal customer or external customer? And if it doesn't, does it really need to be done? And can I be using that time to do something else? So the recognition of that thinking shouldn't just be, awards or conversation. It actually should be built into your performance plans, built into expectations. Most of us all have risk goals and performance goals and HR goals. We should have a do less work goal. Yeah. So I think that's what the concept was really around the Friction Project. But also, I also think some of this is about, some people think friction, they think about, if I were trying to get something done, how do I get my annoying stakeholder to get out of the way, right? And I don't think that's the point. I think we've created so much work and so much probably non-value added work that you're creating friction to actually get what's important done. So let's clear the decks and actually get the most important work for the customer as our focus.
Yeah. Because if you don't simplify things, to wrap up that, the whole conversation, internally you just have a load of noise and nothing gets done, and then that reflects outwards into a poor customer experience, right? Because if there's no one like shrinking it back, and there's just like load of ideas and like a cacophony of you know, conflicting ideas, but no central point where someone goes, all right, I like your point, but this is where we're going to get to.
Yeah.
You just have a really noisy internal environment that doesn't reflect very well to your customer. Because, I mean,
absolutely. And look, I think we'll recognize everyone's workload comes from different places, right? Like, you know, having worked in security the last couple of years, I would say most of the work doesn't come from the customer. Most of the work comes from regulators and boards.
So they're ultimately a customer. Yeah.
And that's a good point. They're ultimately a customer as well. But then how much time do we spend with ourselves? That's really looking at, okay, so let's be clear what the outcomes should be for the regulator, for the boards, for even, you know, keeping the customers safe. And is everything we're doing actually contributing to that, or are we actually just spinning, right? So I think the trick is actually to know who your customers are, right? Internally, externally, and then work backwards from there.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very interesting concept.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what's next for you? Like, obviously you've wrapped up a pretty significant sort of period of your career, like, you know, work 6 years in any organization, especially nowadays, is quite a big stint. And you know, like you alluded to at the start, you know, global sort of nature to the work, and you know, like you say, it's always 9 a.m. or 6 p.m. somewhere.
Yeah.
What ideally are you looking to move into next? Like something similar? Like what's kind of the next ideal challenge for you?
Yeah, you're right. The last 6 years has been very significant, personally and professionally, I think. I don't think many people get to work on a people transformation during, you know, a once in a lifetime COVID event. And then you add in a couple of sudden CEO exits, you know, from a cultural perspective. And then you have a daughter as well on the side, right? And I learn a lot about juggling, juggling life or trying to be present when there's so much going on. But even just learning so much about the security, resilience, you know, function, right, and how much it takes to keep a company and its employees and its customers safe. Absolutely mind blowing, right? So yeah, the last 6 years has been absolutely great. Really, really good to learn so much, but as you said, I need to find a new rhythm. My 4 and 6 year olds, I'm not sure they know who their father is at this point, so I better promise to take them to the zoo next week, and I figure they'll start the trend of getting back in their good books. But yeah, my challenge is going to be knowing how to slow down. I don't think I've slowed down for many years. So
yeah, I mean, you seem like you're itching to jump straight back into something. So, but obviously you've got a bit of a period of time just to look after yourself and.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you know, to answer your question about what's next for me, to the point about focusing on slowing down, I'm focused on networking at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not going to jump at just anything in a sense, but I started networking probably a couple of weeks ago, and I'm actually enjoying it. It's scary because you're kind of reaching out to people and you're going, oh, are they gonna respond? Do they you know, why would they even talk to you? And you're going, oh, actually, wow, surprisingly, people actually just enjoy talking to each other.
Massively. Like, I think I'm saying it all the time at the moment, like everyone's in the same boat, you know, whether it's me and what I do, whether it's you, whether it's people in roles, out of roles, like everyone's got that kind of, there's that period. I don't want to make this melancholy, or negative, but you know, it's uncertain times. Like the only constant is change at the moment. And I'm always saying to people, you know, just got to make sure you're still flexing that networking muscle. Yeah. And you should never lose that, because, you know, your network, you know, it's a bit cheesy, but people say your network is your net worth. Like, you know, it's who you know ultimately.
Yeah. And I think the problem is when you first start networking, you're almost running around looking for a job, right? And going, you think about who your network has potentially a link to a job, and a complete wrong way. It's the job is an outcome if it comes, but your focus is actually to learn from each other. And people are absolutely willing to just share knowledge, and if they connect with you, then they want you to connect with their network. So my focus for the next few months is really networking. And if I get another chance to run another function through transformation, preach some of my, outcome people focused approaches to running transformation, I would absolutely love to get back in, but that's not my focus right now. It's to slow down and, get some normality in my life and meet some new people and old people too.
Yeah. And I guess to finish, like on a bit of a lighter note, what do you like to do just to keep yourself? Obviously, you mentioned your kids and your partner, and what makes you happy ultimately.
Yeah, no, good question. I don't think I've got a real hobby.
Okay.
I think that's the problem with when you get to your 40s. I used to love sports. Used to play cricket, soccer, indoor soccer, whatever. But then everything keeps falling apart. So these days, I'm trying to find something I'm passionate about. And at the moment, I've always been a big rugby league fan. I'm sure like many of your listeners as well. And the good old Broncos finally going back to the grand final, not yet. Sorry.
Not yet. Ooh.
Not yet. Jeez.
Cool. If this comes out after the game at the weekend, wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm gonna get some messages from the Panthers fans going, you're kidding yourself. But no, I'm definitely enjoying the Broncos ride. And it's been fun because they've been so terrible, they've been so unpredictable, but they've somehow made it to where they are right now, and you never know, right? You never know. So anyway,
I mean, there's a school of thought that's the final.
Should have been, right? That would have been a fairy tale.
But there's a school of thought whoever wins that goes on.
Yeah. But yeah,
I don't think you can ever write off the Panthers.
Oh no, everyone's been trying for 5 years, haven't they? But yeah, besides watching footy, which has only got a couple of weeks left, I'm actually enjoying listening to World War II stuff again. I'm not a massive buff in it, but I do really enjoy the strategies of World War II and the politics of it, and I'm sure you too.
By far, like one of the most fascinating periods of history.
Yeah. So I try to listen to World War I stuff. I try to go back to some of the Roman battles and whatnot. Yeah. It's all the same. World War II it's almost like, the world, the real world wars for the modern era, and the strategies and the problems and the things they're facing almost still feels real. So for me, I'm kind of enjoying this 500 episodes that I'm trying to get to the end of. I'm 110 at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
1 hour per episode.
Wow.
So
you do have a hobby.
Yeah, but Well, it's an interest rather than a hobby, maybe.
Yeah. Well, really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in. Really useful and insightful conversation, and thanks for bringing your insights to the table, and hopefully our listeners take something away from it, even if it's just one thing.
And by the way, if anyone is keen to have a chat, just reach out to me. Got a bit of spare time now, so reach out to me. I am truly passionate about how to apply a people lens to how you do the work, right, and the benefits of that. But it has to be put into the context of what your listeners' kind of environment is, and
and that's the idea of bringing this together. Ultimately, we could do like fancy dinners and round tables, but sometimes it's just nice just to have.
They got me a coffee today, so that's nicer than fancy dinner, isn't it?
Well, thanks for coming. Really appreciate the chat, and all the best for the future.
Thanks, Adam.
Cheers, Jack.
Cheers.
Thank you to Jack Su for being the latest guest on A Human Element. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and stay tuned for further episodes that are ahead on the horizon.